I mean, I've really been looking forward to this. We all have been looking forward to this moment because there's been so much anticipation, you know, for you all who've just been enjoying your summer in leisurely vacation. Maybe this was a moment of dread, but for the rest of us, we have been so thrilled and looking forward to meeting together. And I hope that wherever you are and from whatever location you're joining us, you're coming to us refreshed and renewed. If you're brand new to Skole Academy this year, I am too. I'm Joylyn Blake. I'm the new director of Skole, and most of you, I think that we met briefly at our end of year instructor meeting. And some of you, we've had little meetings along the way this summer. So it's good to see all of you. And I'll just ask some of my friends and neighbors to keep an eye on the waiting room. And if you see anybody who's in there that needs to be let in, please do so. But I just want to say a warm welcome to all of our Skole Academy community of instructors, or as Presbytera likes to say, I love it, our faculty of friends. We're going to open tonight with a word of prayer, and we've asked Father Nathan Dixon if he would open us in prayer. So if you wouldn't mind, Father Dixon, take it away. He's working out the mute button. There we go.
Yes, I am. I have, I'm unfamiliar with Zoom on my phone. As you can see, I'm in a different location than maybe normal, but let's take a moment to quiet our hearts before we pray. Let us pray. Almighty God, by your gift alone we come to wisdom and true understanding. Look with favor, we pray, on our universities, colleges, and schools, especially those homeschools that are represented here, all of those schools that are in homes that we will be serving this year, and for Skole Academy. That knowledge may be increased among us, and wholesome learning flourish and abound. Bless those who teach, this faculty of friends here, and those students who learn, and grant that in humility of heart they may ever look to you, the fountain of all wisdom, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. The fountain of all wisdom is such a beautiful way to remind us all of who we constantly look to, who we constantly lean on. And I love the fact that as his body of believers, we get to experience him embodied through each other. So I'm hoping and trusting and praying and working toward a even further collaborative environment for us this coming year, so that we can get to know one another better and serve and help and love, encourage, and support one another. And sometimes the best way to do that is to just have a little outbreak of belly laughter. And we've had plenty of that in our admin team in the over the last few weeks. And so we're going to facilitate a little bit of fun and a little bit of work accomplished in the process. So I'm going to let our admin team introduce themselves, but we're going to do this in a slightly unconventional way. You need to keep your eyes on the screen, and if you don't have the Brady Bunch view up, that's what you need to see so that you can take a look, because our admin team is going to use a little Zoom feature that is a no-no in your classrooms, but is not a no-no here, to sort of identify themselves. So team, take a moment as we had planned. All right. peruse those screens, my friend, and you will see that here is your admin team. Why are we in our scuba gear? Because we've been underwater. Okay, that's not actually the case. We've been having a great time this summer and we've been getting a lot of stuff done, but we also said we wanted you to be able to quickly recognize us and see us. And most of you have seen us and known us, but here we are. And you'll hear from each one of the admin team members throughout the evening, and they'll take the time to introduce themselves then. But I wanted you to get a quick eye on us. Okay, team, you can, remove the scuba gear. Now, I want you all to have a chance to get to know one another a little bit and then to identify yourself in some breakout rooms. And you are going to do the very thing that God just demonstrated to you. What you are going to do is to go into a breakout room. I'll explain how to get there and which one you're going to choose. And in that breakout room, you as a group are going to decide which filter you will use and how that introduces your department. Okay, so you're going to go into a breakout room based on departments. Now, this is not an exact science. There's going to be some overlap. Some of you are already panicking. I teach in multiple departments. Don't worry. Pick the breakout room that the department that you're most often in. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen and show you the breakout room options. And then you're going to, again, use that opportunity in the breakout room to come together as a group and pick your video filter and how you will introduce yourself. Okay, let me share my screen. So, the assignment in the breakout room again, choose an appropriate video filter for your group and identify a quick and quirky way to introduce your department of study. Okay, just like you saw the admin team do. So this, my friends, are the breakout rooms. So peruse them quickly and find where you think you belong. Some of them, they have a department head listed beside them. Some of them have a lead teacher listed beside them. Some of them, there is no department head or lead teacher, but it's just the category of instruction. So you are going to join the department room that you think is most suited to what it is that you teach. Okay. You may want to take a quick screenshot if you need to remember which breakout rooms are which. Okay. So I'm going to stop this share. Well, I'll leave it for one or two more seconds here. And then we're going to open 11 breakout rooms and you are going to pick the one that applies to you. Okay. All right, you may begin joining those rooms. If you don't join a room, you'll be hanging out here in the main room and we can direct you accordingly. All right, so I see that some of our logic friends are back. Look, there they go. There they go. All right. Now it's a game of match the match the filter to the department. All right, so here we go. People are coming back in with their filters on. All departments, you can go ahead and put your filter on, whatever you selected. And then what we're going to ask is that if there is a department head or a lead teacher represented for that department, then we're going to ask that they unmute and tell us about your choice. And if there's not a department head, we'll just, let someone volunteer themselves to say what they are. So let's see, let's start with as we had them listed, let's just start at the top. Latin and languages for upper school. Is Mr. Katinsky on the call?
Yeah, I'm right here. So we, rather than choosing a particular filter, we chose a background. So we're not all wearing filtered glasses that change the way you look at the world, but we definitely have the world behind us because we're languages. So that's what we chose.
I love it. I love it. The World for Languages. And Miss Amanda Reeves. Greetings, Miss Amanda Reeves. Is there any particular thing you want to tell us, like per se, about your department or your personal life? Just wondering.
So for department, we'll start there. We decided for lower school languages, we were going to go for our little plane emoji because we get to open up the world to our youngest learners by introducing them to languages, which is pretty fun. And I guess personal life-wise, I'm coming to class from Italy where I just got engaged this week. Woohoo!
We're so happy and celebrating with you. Next, Amy Morgan in the Writing and Rhetoric Department.
Hey, so we chose the filter that says, huh? Because we're trying to help teach people how to communicate in writing and rhetoric. So that's what we chose. Yep. And we had a tutor join us, Patricia Pat Bradley also popped in. She's been tutoring a variety of writing and rhetoric students for a while. So
Thank you so much. Well-ordered language. Do we have a crew there and someone who'd be a spokesperson? There we go. I see you, Miss Johansson. There you go.
Well, Kat and I were, well, Jillian visited us briefly, but Kat and I were in a group, but Kara could be with us. We'll see if she approves of our filter. But sometimes when I do out of language one, on our adjective chapter, it's the one time I let them bring in a treat. So we're wearing a party hat, but it could also be a pizza. And I tell them to bring in a treat and that all the different toppings could be all these different adjectives to make the treat so much more special. But Kat, I also like what you said. You should add in there what you said.
Well, I just said the different toppings you put on a pizza completely change what it is. And it's the same with all the different parts of speech. You can come up with a completely different product based on which ones you sprinkle onto your communication.
I love it. Genius. Humanities department. That's a biggie. Phaedra.
Good evening. Thanks to Christy Seward, who gave us this idea of 3D glasses, primarily because in the humanities or the humane letters, we see more dimensions of rather than just reading what's on the text. We kind of dig deep and we start realizing that people are multidimensional and dynamic and complex. And I was thinking too that we take off our rose-colored glasses of everything is nice and tidy and we face the world the best we're able with our 3D glasses.
Amazing. So brilliant. We have a new announcement that we have a new lead teacher going into the school year, and that is Miss Ash White will be our lead teacher for logic, which we're so happy to be welcoming her as a lead because it was a whole lot of things under that humanities umbrella. So Ash, take it away. What have you guys got?
Well, so Jimmy and I initially chose different filters. I chose the hat because I do wear lots of hats because I also teach writing and rhetoric, and Jimmy also wears lots of hats. He has been part of a nonprofit in his area. That's one of his main gigs, where he serves people in his area who are facing drug addiction with all kinds of services and with, the love of Jesus. And it was also appropriate, I think, that I picked the hat because Jimmy and I are the only two who showed up in logic, because I think anyone who also teaches logic teaches other things or Scole. So this feels appropriate. Lots of hats.
Many hats. So true. 7, the science department. Is Chris Hall on the call?
Jamie did most of the talking explanation, so I think she should be the one to explain the rainbow lollipops.
Beautiful. And
okay.
So glad that there we go. Go ahead.
Well, science is sweet. And also we study light, and light, of course, is the rainbow. So there weren't a lot of really sciencey things. so we had to stretch it a bit.
I love it. And I'm glad that Scole family, we can welcome our newest instructor, Marv Retzer, who's coming on as our chemistry teacher this year. And when I say new, I'm talking hours old, people. Hours old that he just signed his contract, was like, should I join the meeting? Yes. So welcome, Marv. We're so happy to have you on the team. Next we have 8, the math department. Is Francel on the call?
Yes, so we also have the because we have so many of those moments in a math class, but we embrace them, we encourage them, and we show the students how to work through it.
So true, so true. Thank you. And art and music. Do we have someone who'll be our spokesperson for art and music?
I could if you like. So if you have a small screen, you might not see that it says loading because Byzantine chant and iconography and music in general, art in general, takes a lifetime to learn. And because the enrollment is still emerging.
That's great. I love it. And how about catechetical instruction?
I'll jump in. We had 4 people in our group, all from all 3 schools. So that was cool. We picked a halo because the Orthodox word is theosis. We're trying to basically like become like God or like saints. And that's our ultimate like theological end. So we picked halos to represent becoming like angelic beings. So there we go.
Well, good call, Sarah, because when we were in the main room, we were saying, I hope the catechetical instructors pick the halo. So way to go. And last, early learners or family courses. Do we have a spokesperson there?
Angelique can speak for us. Go ahead, Angelique.
Okay, thank you. I was going to nominate Aaron, so that worked out, didn't it? So there was 3 of us. Stephanie was also with us. It's not on my screen right now, but we have the little sweet, cute, cuddly ones that we just would love to snuggle and hug, and are helping these kiddos get a good foundation in geography. I'm teaching reading. Aaron, forgive me, I forgot what because you do multiple things.
I have liberal arts 1. So we have
okay, there we go. Yes,
yeah.
That's what we're talking about. So reading. So yeah, we have the sweet little and their mamas a lot of times.
Friends, thank you so much for participating. This took a little longer than we anticipated, but I think it was just worthwhile because it's good to get a snapshot of what all is entailed. And I can say, just looking at the numbers just today, right now we have over 1,500 students. I think at the last count, it was 1,510 individual students. That doesn't include, all the students who have multiple course enrollments. That in terms of course enrollments, we're almost at about 3,000 of different, course enrollments. So I think it's a beautiful opportunity for us to see the ways that we come together as a community to really serve these families in a variety of ways. So you don't have to wear your filter the remainder of the meeting, but I just wanted us to be able to get a quick look at how we kind of break down into the different departments. Now, the way the rest of the evening is going to go is we're going to have 2 main sections. We're going to have the front end section, which is how to get ready for week 1. Just the things that you need to know in order to launch just week 1. And then the second half of it is things that you need to know as a Scole instructor overall for the year and our policies, practices, and things like that. Okay. So I'll get us started. And like I said, we'll have various people who will speak throughout the evening. And then there'll be a time of Q&A at the end, so that if there's something that you need to hang around with to get a question asked, you get a question answered, you're more than welcome to do that. So as a reminder, if you're ever thinking, what should be my focus for the way my class should go, the way my own life should emulate what I want my students to model and mentor, and any reminder of how you need to orient yourself or reorient yourself. Just remember that these are our core values that we're after, that it's classical, and by that we mostly mean that it's formative, that it has a formative impact on lives, that the experience feels restful and undistracted, that it is meant to be engaging, where there isn't the option of people opting out of it, but that there is something that compels them and draws them in, and that it is personal. We want our classrooms to be spaces where students feel known and loved. So remember that, my friends, for yourself and your own life rhythms, and then remember that as our core values that we're seeking to embody in our classrooms. Okay. I want to make this special note before we go much further that we are going to take a final review of enrollment numbers on August 16th. Most courses have already made, but we do have a few courses on the docket that they have 0 to 1 enrollment. And if that is the case, by August 16th, those courses will be closed. If that applies to you as an instructor, most of you have already been reached out to that that's a possibility, but we just wanted to make sure not to neglect that public service announcement. Okay, so for week 1, what does ready in fact look like? If you're taking notes, this is your little checklist. Your readiness looks like you're having your welcome letters sent out. And if you want to put the date to that, the last day, the deadline for that is August 22nd. Don't worry, you'll be shared a checklist that has this information, the literal checklist. So, but this is just for you to, if you're a type that likes to take personal notes, the welcome letter, August 22nd, okay? For every family and every section of courses that you teach. Then you host orientation. That's the week of August 28th. So it's the week before courses start. And hosting orientation includes you telling your families the time you're scheduled to meet that falls within the time options that your course will start meeting on the next week. So let's say you have a course that meets 3 times a week. Then for orientation, you're going to pick one of those days and time frames to have families join that week at that time to give them a rundown of what the course entails. Now, you may say, well, what do I do with that orientation, or what does it need to include? Don't worry, we have a template for that too. So the template will walk you through like what exactly orientation needs to entail. You will need to have your Canvas set up and ready to go. We're going to talk about that tonight. Alice and Haley's going to walk us through that. And then you're going to need to be sure that you have the resources that you need. Most of you already do. You have like the physical books you're going to teach from. We also want to be sure you have the digital resources you may need. And David Rosentrader is going to talk about that. Okay, but those are the main things you need to have in place in order to be ready to go for week 1. So with that, I'm going to change the share button and I'm going to show you what this instructor checklist. I feel like this is one of the things, just because of our time, I'm going to shorten a bit and not do as much talking about this, because you're going to have the actual checklist and the actual orientation template that you can walk through. Okay. And we can look at, if necessary, I'm happy to join you on Zoom or host an additional time as needed for anybody who's like, well, can you walk me through more specifically what this means? But it really is a step-by-step operation. So let me show you what the checklist looks like. Again, it was brilliantly compiled by the unparalleled Alice and Haley. So this is what you will get, the back to school instructor checklist. And you can see here's the pre-orientation. That means before you host your orientation, these are the things that you need to have done. You need to Check, you get to check this after tonight. Attend the back to school instructor meeting. Then you need to send out those welcome letters and then prepare your digital resources. If you haven't already, we have 2 summer training sessions that took place. We'd like you to view those. They're already recorded, so if you could view those trainings. And then make sure that there are additional Canvas training. It's an asynchronous course options that you'll get to view as well. So that's what you need to do this month to get all of that in order. And then for the orientation basics, I won't go through all of this right now, but it literally just walks you through what does your orientation need to look like, and what does that need to include. Then further down on the checklist, it's going to say, what do I need to do for my Canvas account, my Canvas course? So this document is going to be very valuable to you in just making sure, hey, I'm ready. And I know that I'm ready because I've followed and accomplished these steps. Okay. The last thing that I will share and show you is also the template that we have for your welcome letter. And that is, again, designed so that you can utilize it to customize it for your own course needs. Okay. And I know that this will be much appreciated by those who create it, that it's not meant to be something that you get the editing permissions of and use the original. You make a copy of it. So you don't have to say, well, why can't I edit this? Why can't I edit this? And send the request to permission to edit it. That permission will be denied. Instead, you just make a copy of the document, and then you get to, once your copy is made, you get to edit it freely. Okay, so let me share that document with you. So the yellow highlights on this document are really the parts that alert you to the fact that this is the part you have the latitude to edit. Okay. I'll read this little note from Allison here. To use this document, please go to File and make a copy. You don't need to request the editing permission. Just list the class name and section, days of the week, and times in the pre-greeting area. Remember, it's easy to send the wrong thing, so make sure you check that out. Okay. And make sure it's right. Every section gets a customized letter, since the Canvas and the Zoom info is specific to each group of students. You'll want to remove the highlighting. It's just to draw your attention to the area of update. So you can make this your friendly greeting. But the rest of it is you put your course name, the time that it meets, the schedule, and then you give the families this orientation schedule, when you will meet with them on Zoom to discuss it. And then the beautiful stuff is these things that are not highlighted, it's just pretty much standard fare. You don't have to change, and you shouldn't change any of that, because that's information that they need, that's standard. Okay. So again, you're going to have all of this handed to you that walks families through what to do in Zoom, what to do in Canvas, and gives them the connection to you. Okay. So having said that, I just want to say thank you again to Allison for her diligent work on that to make it so user-friendly for all of us. And I'm going to hand it off now to Allison, who's going to just give you some Canvas notes. As some of you have already been so eager to get in there, Amanda Reeves, and other of you have been so eager to get in there and tweak and get your Canvas course all set up. So Allison, go ahead and walk us through what we need to know about Canvas.
Hi, good evening. I'm gonna share my screen, and we're thinking about readiness kind of in terms of hospitality. So your Canvas learning environment isn't the sum total of your course, but it is a real part of the way the family is going to interact with the school. And so there are some ways that we want to encourage you to be extra mindful as you're kind of getting started. So I chose the picture for my slide here kind of intentionally. It's this banquet that's set up with some lovely place settings and some really intentional food. And so likewise, as you're setting up your Canvas environment for your families, you want to keep that same kind of attitude of mindfulness that you're anticipating their needs ahead of time. You're anticipating how they might be best served by the structure, what they would be most comfortable in, or what would best suit their needs based on the age of the student and the type of course that you're teaching. So thinking about our Canvas environment in terms of hospitality, I'm going to go back to the checklist that Dr. Blake shared a second ago. So I'm going to slide this over. So the checklist is one of a handful of documents that we've kind of provided to you hospitably ahead of time, and you can access those in Canvas in groups in the Instructor Hub. If you go over to the course administration button, this button is the one that will walk you through the seasons of the school year. So I want to draw your attention to it this evening, specifically to the back to school tab right here. So again, we're in Canvas, in groups, in the Instructor Hub, course administration, and back to school. And so here you can see not only the checklist, which is already live and available to you. We'll have tonight's recording available in case someone missed it or you want to listen to a certain section again. It will be available to you probably in the next 24 hours or 48 hours. We also have the syllabus construction template and guides in case you need to go back and revisit something, or if yours looks dramatically different from this, I would encourage you to just kind of look over it again. When we publish courses during the launch season, sometimes syllabi are given to us that are a little bit more streamlined and a little bit less fleshed out. And so at the orientation start of school, you want to make sure your syllabus is very robust and it has your full intentions for the course now that you are this close to starting. So it might be a time that you want to revisit your syllabus and just be sure that it does match your intentions and what families can anticipate from the year. We don't necessarily need to update the website. If it's something that you would like us to, you're welcome to submit it through the portal, and we'll be glad to update that for you, but it would not necessarily be essential to do so. The welcome letter template, this is the one that Dr. Blake was just talking about, and it's available to you. We also have orientation templates. So we have a sample agenda. In the welcome letter, down at the bottom, we have a section that in the past has had a little bit more of an itemized list for you. We've kind of pulled back and said, you know what, make this section your own so that families really feel that you have given a lot of thought to the structure of the orientation meeting, and they can understand more how you are tailoring that time to your class. So we want you to update that with your agenda outline so families can know what to expect. But if you don't know what to do or what to put there, the sample agenda is also linked right here. So again, we were back in the Instructor Hub and it's the same agenda that's here. Now, after orientation, you do need to send a follow-up email to families. So we have a template that talks about a couple of essential things. We often have families that use that initial link to get into Canvas. Two things. One, they must check their email if they've set up a new account and verify their account. If they don't verify their account, it's difficult for them to get logged back in, and we can help them, and it's a problem that we can solve, but it does take a little bit of extra time and hand-holding, which we can do if we need to, but if we can prevent that, then it serves them in the best way. So they set up the account if they're new to us. Then in that process, they will get that verification email that needs done. The second thing that often happens is that our families are unable to get back into our Canvas once they've made that initial account. That's because we don't use the standard Canvas generic URL. We have a custom URL that's private just to our school. And there's lots of reasons why we do that, but it is difficult sometimes for them to find. So this link is also on our website on the drop down to log into Canvas, and it's here for them as well. So you might encourage them to bookmark that. Also, we talk about heading concerns off from the beginning. So if a family expresses concern during the orientation process or even in the first week of class, that's the time to take care of it. And so on my slides, I think I called it primed for partnership. So there are a few parts of the checklist that you're going to see are geared towards talking about how to resolve those conflicts early on. we have those first 2 weeks of drop ad, and then after that, families do not get a refund. So we want to serve them well and make sure that we've addressed the concerns in a timely fashion. The one caveat to that is that if there's a student who's being served in the Center for Students with Learning Differences, they do have 3 weeks if they're part of a learning plan. So if you have a student that falls into that category, know that they have a little extra time to make sure that their course is the right fit. Okay. So all those documents are there for you. There are just a couple things on the checklist I'm going to draw your attention to. So the first 2 sections, Dr. Blake kind of went through already. Here we get into our Canvas account. There's some general things that if you are new to us, you want to make sure you set up. Put your bio, put your photo on your Canvas profile and things like that. If you're returning, you might want to make sure that you update it, or that if you didn't do it last year, now's a good time. So this next section has things specific to each course, right? And so as a school, we provide you the shell for your course. It's updated each year, and the new ones are available to you. So if you've not logged into Canvas since last spring, you have a course ready for you, at least one. And so you're welcome to start building that out at any time. Do know, though, just a reminder that the front page of your course is not to be changed. Okay, so this page is somewhat customized depending upon which house of studies or whether you're in the Great Hall. These have all been kind of tailored to give a slightly different look and feel, but yet a cohesive feel to the larger school. So you'll see that there's a slight difference in the banner there. But this page is not to be changed in any way. I'll draw your attention to the Start Here button. So your families should be pointed here during orientation. It's on the recommended agenda. But the Start Here page walks them through the beginning of school. So especially our new families, or families that have maybe only been with us a year or two, there's a lot to take in, especially if they have multiple children and multiple courses with multiple instructors who all have slightly different expectations. And so we like to give them a little bit of commonality to serve them just with a little bit of hospitality, I guess, if you will. So on this Getting Started page, in the past, this was a Getting Started module, but we've moved it to a page this year. There shouldn't be anything on this page you need to update. I will point you to the Start of School Guide, which takes you to the website, and it does walk you through links to this page right here. The Start of School Guide walks families through important and critical dates between now and the drop ad deadline. So each of these has a pop out that will help families know what's going on. And we do hide this after this season and take it off the website, but it's very helpful for right now. And then we'll put 2 different welcome videos here within the next day or so, one from Dr. Blake and one from Presbytera Maria. So that is an important thing that you need to know about, so that if families ask, you can point them in that direction. The last one, actually 2 that I want to point you to here, Meet the Teacher. So this is a page we do need you to customize. So in the past, we've had kind of the teacher profile. I think it was like a PDF that you could fill out and then upload that. We've kind of maybe advance that just a little bit. So this year you have this page that's given to you in your course shell. You can do the same thing on every course. If you're teaching multiple ones, you're welcome to do that. And we don't mind if you take this banner down on this particular page. It's just to give it a little bit of color if you didn't want to put something there, but you do have a lot of autonomy. So this is your page to introduce yourself to your students and the parents. You can put a video, photo, information about your favorite pets or whatever you would like to do to help them get to know you. Okay, last thing in this. So recordings are something that we provide proactively during, I put the first 6 courses, really it's like around 2 weeks or so. The reason we do this is we provide all the recordings during that drop ad period and maybe slightly after, because students are coming in and out of courses. It serves them most quickly if they have those links at the ready, so that when they come into class that they can catch up quickly and not rely on waiting to get those links from you. So we ask that you do provide those. You might be wondering, well, what about the rest of the year? So we would encourage you to not post the recordings for the entire year. That's kind of been the school policy, or at least recommendation, that we want students to attend mentally as well as physically. So during the live class session, obviously it's recorded, but that recording is really for an absence or a special circumstance, or on a day when you have particularly difficult content that they might need to review, that kind of thing. If you feel like in your particular circumstance, you need to post all the recordings, it is okay, but we would encourage you to do that judiciously, and make sure that you explain to your students maybe the rationale for why you do that, so that families don't expect it automatically from all instructors. Okay, so it's not a no, but it's our preference would be that we not post them all ahead of time. But we also understand that you have autonomy, and we want to not make, instructing any more difficult than it is. Okay. And that's a simple thing that we can say, sure. If it serves your needs for some reason, then that's fine. Okay. Course resources is the last button in here that I want to make sure I talk about for just a second. Course resources has these buttons at the bottom. This recordings button is exactly the same. On some of the surveys, we found that people wanted different ways to get to the recordings. And so it's there if you would like to let students know, but it is in that getting started folder. So if you're not using it long-term, this link would be a little less helpful throughout the year unless you post something special. But the idea with course resources is that you may want to post things that are referenced throughout the year that don't really fit in a module. That would be maybe a website or a document, a template, something that the students need for your course. You're welcome to edit this page and add those in here. You can add them as files or images, and you can turn images into buttons like we've done here. You can make this page your own, or you can do absolutely nothing with it, and it can just be there with these standard resources too. Canvas does provide a lot of services to our families, and so this troubleshooting guide and student guide are very helpful if students are having difficulty with Canvas. The first answer might be to see if they've checked the guide to see if there's a solution there. If it's like, how do I submit an assignment, which we did pull out this one because it is the most common question that instructors get. But if it's something else, then they might find some assistance there. Okay. All right. The last thing on the checklist that is new this year that I want to make sure we say out loud is involving roll call attendance. So if you taught with us last year when Canvas was new, you know that we enabled roll call as an attendance taking tool, and some people used it, some people didn't. We learned a lot about its nuances and the difficulties or benefits that it had. There's one thing, though, that's come to our attention that we need to kind of all get on board with for this year, and it involves a simple setting. So in your course, you have an attendance tab. It looks different for you than the student, but if you open up the attendance tab up here in the settings, we were unable to make this setting standard for everyone, but it's a very simple checkbox. Right here under roll call settings, there's a box and it says, do not count attendance toward final grade. We're asking that as a school that all instructors use this box and that we do not count attendance towards our final grade. Here's the reason why. Canvas roll call does not let us differentiate between excused and unexcused absences, right? And that caused a little bit of difficulty in how to label it. And then if it impacted the grade, then the student was sort of punished for something we've said they're allowed to do. And we obviously don't want to do that. We want to honor our families and give them the room as homeschooling families to, to miss a day every now and then that they need to. So by asking that we not count attendance towards our final grade, we don't want to take away the opportunity for you to give participation credit or attendance credit if you do that in some other way. So what we would ask you to do, it's in the checklist, and it says that we would like for you to give credit by making an assignment. You could make this quarterly or on a semester basis, or if you're super ambitious, you could do a weekly basis. But whatever that frequency is that makes sense for you, you can create an assignment and then award each student the appropriate credit based on your observations in class. I would say just, classically speaking, be sure that you're incentivizing the right things, and that you're using that sort of point system judiciously if you're awarding those types of points. So does that make sense? Roll call should not impact your final grade because we really can't differentiate the type of absence it is. Okay. Right. And so I think that brings me to the end of this section of my talk. So keep in mind that we're looking at hospitality, and I'm going to pass it now to David Rosentrader.
All right, thank you. I can keep this relatively quick. I'm just going to talk to you about digital resources, both for yourself and for students. You should have gotten an email about shared Google Drive files from me recently. If you're teaching a class that uses a cap text that has, where we have a digital version of that text to share with you. So each year I kind of reset the access to those files because we have teachers that leave, we have new teachers that join. And so to make sure that everyone gets what they need, it's easiest to kind of just do a bulk reset. So you should have gotten those emails if you're teaching logic, writing, rhetoric, well-ordered language, Latin, science, any of those things, and have access to those. If you don't know what I'm talking about or do know what I'm talking about and don't have it, get in touch with me and I'll make sure you do get the access that you need. The other thing that you should have, depending on the course you're teaching, is access to my library resources. Again, there's sort of a limited number of classes where this applies to, but like lower school Latin classes, well-ordered language, writing and rhetoric are the ones that are coming to mind for sure. They have songs and chants. They have other sort of digital resources in my library, both for you and the students. I've also added instructors. I've added those resources to your accounts. So you wouldn't have gotten a notification about that, but those resources should be there waiting for you. I've added them to the account that we have on file for you as your Classical Academic Press account. It may not be the email address that you use for school communication, just depending. It would be the email address that you use on Classical Academic Press if you're making a purchase, so that all those resources are kind of there alongside your other resources. We don't want you to have to switch accounts between the one that you're normally using to buy stuff and then like a second one for teaching. If you so just look for it there. If you're not sure which account it is, or if you want it on a different account than where it is right now, you can again get in touch with me. It's not complicated to do. So that's kind of the default, but we can make adjustments if we need to. In the past, if you've taught with us and had a class that is using my library resources, you'll remember that we have this system of kind of setting up accounts for students and then having logins and passwords provided to them, but then you also had those listed on your roster. It's a bit of a clunky kind of solution there that we were providing. We wanted to get these resources into the hands of the students, and that was kind of, it worked well enough for the time we used it, but we've wanted to upgrade that process for a while now. So starting this year, our plan is to, and parents have been asking for this as well. You know, parents will say, "Can I just get these resources on the account where I bought the courses or where I'm buying my books?" That's where we already go to access things. So this year, yeah, they can. That's our plan. We're aggregating, you know, if they have 2 students that are in 2 different classes that use these resources, we'll combine all the resources they need and drop them into the parents' account where they can kind of access those for all the students that are in any of these classes. So that's important for you to know that that's how that's working. You won't see login and password information on your rosters anymore because that just doesn't exist this year. People are asking you about, hey, how do I get my library access? You can tell them, you know, it should be on the parents' account, and you can point them back to us, to the support inbox, with questions about how to get that access. We'll be communicating with them directly about, you know, the way that we're going to roll that out to them and making sure that they get that access. So they should already be aware of it, but inevitably emails slip through the cracks and they may not know where to look. So you can point them in our direction. And we'll help them find that. Lastly, as you also know, during the add drop period, there are people who are joining class through that time period. So we kind of have a process where we'll be rolling out My Library Access once a week during that time. Sort of take a snapshot at the start of orientation week of whoever is enrolled in those classes, load all the My Library resources in, wait a week, see what has changed, load in a new batch, wait another week. I'll do that basically 3 or 4 weeks to try to keep all the new students who are coming in with getting the access that they need. That does mean there may be a brief period of time where if a student joins your class on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, they might not have access to those resources immediately, and but they'll get them kind of the next time we refresh that list, probably on the following Monday. If it's sort of, if there's a critical reason that they need them, you know, immediately, we can work with that too, and I can manage one-offs, but it's easiest to kind of manage it in bulk if that's doable for the way the class is working. So that's kind of what I have to share. If you have questions, feel free to just email the support inbox. I or someone else on the admin team will be able to answer those questions. Want to make sure that you have the access you need. Want to make sure the families have access to what they need as well. Thanks.
Thank you, David Rosentrader, our tech wizard. His official title is Systems Integrator, if you're new to Scholé Academy. Now, we know best practices. We've all been staring at a screen for a solid hour now. So this is what we are going to do. We are going to take 5 minutes to stand and stretch, blink and think, and we are going to report back. You can turn off your camera, stretch, and we're going to report back at precisely 8:04, and we will be joining breakout rooms again, friends. So be ready. All right, 8:04. All right, friends, I hope you had a good little break and refreshment. Now, take a peek at the breakout rooms again as a reminder to yourself of which one you should join. Because in just a moment, you're going to be given your breakout room challenge, okay? Again, if you are in multiple departments, then you can simply join the one in which you teach most frequently or the most courses. Or, you know, if you were bored with your last breakout room, feel free to switch over. There's freedom here. So these are the breakout rooms. Take mental note. Now, what we are going to do is have a little scavenger hunt through the handbook challenge. It's important that all of us as Scholé instructors and as contractors are familiar with the contents of our handbook, because one, we're responsible to uphold them, and two, it will save you some grief when parents come to you with questions, because let me tell you, many times the answer is in the handbook. So what we're going to do is I'll give you a little sneak peek at what the questions will be roughly about, the categories of the questions. And you can take a peek at that. And then when you are in your breakout rooms, I will send the little broadcast particular question that it is up to your team to find the answer to. So it's advisable to begin, the very first challenge is locate the Scholé Academy handbook. So if you're on your device or whatever, it's on the website, but you have to do a little hunting, and I don't want to tell you where it is. I want you to use your intuition. Where do you think you might find it? And there's a couple of options. There's one that you can just scroll through on the website, or there's a downloadable version, but you'll need to find the handbook. And again, here's some of the categories of the questions that will be sent your way. Okay. So let me open up the breakout rooms. And then again, you will be voluntarily joining them. Oh, conveniently, all the rooms are already populated. Okay, I'm just going to open up all the rooms again, and you can join those same rooms. And if you need to come back to the main room and be reassigned, be my guest. Once you're in the breakout room, look for the broadcast message and work as a team to answer it. The goal here is for us to have some shared institutional knowledge. Okay? Okay, friends, use your reaction button, one of your reactions buttons, to give a thumbs up if you discovered one thing maybe that was new to you or you didn't quite know, or that clarified some understanding for you about Scholar Academy policy. There's no right or wrong. If you're like, I knew all of this stuff, that's perfectly fine. But if you learned something, every time I look at our handbook, I learn a little something new. It's a good reminder to me of, oh yes, this is this is our policy on this. And I love actually the way our handbook's written. I think it's a beautiful read because it gives the rationale and the context of understanding why our policies are what they are. Now, were any of you stumped by anything? I mean, I confess the last one was a little bit of a trick question because that policy is not yet made official in the handbook. It will be, friends. So my hope was that that would just prompt some discussion. And I'm assuming and guessing that in some of your discussions, it may have led you to, one, scroll frantically, or two, to like situate yourself a little bit in our academic dishonesty section, because there are some principles by which we govern ourselves there in the academic dishonesty. But essentially, what will be added this year is that plagiarism is a form of representing someone or something's work other than your own as your own. And as a result, in consequence, that does, in our estimation, fall under the umbrella of what would be considered plagiarism. So our stance in Scholar Academy classrooms will be that students are not to employ the use of AI tools. Now, we know this is a really rapidly developing and unfolding discussion, but for the 23-24 school year, our policy is that we will not be allowing, permitting, or training in the use of AI tools. Now, the tricky thing for us as educators is, of course, that it's largely undetectable or can be undetectable, because in the past, when you were like, this seems very articulate for this particular student, then you could Google search and pretty easily find, oh, this is the resource that they nabbed that and took that from. I don't know, maybe you all have dealt with only angelic students all your lives, but I would easily be able to sort of locate, oh, this is an instance of plagiarism, and then, respond accordingly. Of course, with AI, you're not going to find it. It's an original work. So it is, it moves more into the realm of the instructor's subjective judgment in the suspicion of this does not seem to be an original piece of, or a piece of work that originated with the student alone, which means it's going to be careful and tight relationship we have to navigate with parents. And in the end, the parents still are the primary educators for their children. And in the end, they ultimately make the call. So, but we will still follow the same practices and procedures of any suspected plagiarism. And that is that we let the policies that are laid out under our academic dishonesty section still apply. And that is, they're not, guilty until proven innocent. They're innocent until proven guilty, but the proof will be more on the collaboration between the instructor and the parent to kind of just explore, to ask questions, to inquire, and then to make a judgment call with the awareness and agreement of the parent. So if you suspect they're using AI tools, the parent will be the point of contact that you make, and you'll follow the handbook policy under the academic dishonesty section. Okay, so we won't belabor that, but just wanted you all to be aware of that. And again, it will be coming out in the handbook, an official policy. I see somebody with a hand up. So yeah. Hey, Emily, go right ahead.
I just had a quick question for the lower school teachers, especially those of us like in the really young grades. I'm almost hesitant to even bring up AI because a lot of them won't even know what it is. And so then almost like their curiosity is going to be like, oh, I want to go try this out and see if I can get away with it. So I was just wondering, like, from lower school teachers, does anybody else have thoughts about that? Like for the older ones, they've heard about it, their friends talk about it, so it needs to be addressed. But for the younger ones, I'm just not sure. Is that something that we bring up, or?
I'm so glad you asked this. I'm so glad. The answer is no, don't bring it up. In the younger school / the grammar school, in fact, I wrote this up, but it's not even Joelle Hodge, our vice president of Classical Academic Press, and I are collaborating on a blog post about this. And the approach is kind of like the same way we approach our whole classical progression of the grammar stage, the dialectic, the rhetoric stage. And for the grammar or the knowledge of the content of AI, we are situating that squarely on the parents. We're not taking that on as a course we're going to instruct in, and we don't want to hurt their innocence at that point. We don't want to take that on. And so, yeah, now that doesn't mean that you can't address it with parents and say, hey, you all need to be aware of this, and you need to, in the same way I would liken it to, certain forms of physical education that we're not going to take on as our duty. That's going to be the parents' duty. So in this regard, they don't need to be naive, but then at the same time, we're not going to take that on as something that we do for the elementary students. There'll be more, and I'm not going to get bogged down right now in it, but at the middle school level, I do have a proposed approach, and then at the upper school, high school level, to treat it like you treat, logic stage and duking it out and wondering why, and then the rhetoric stage where the upper school students themselves have to formulate the arguments about why does this fall under the under the umbrella of academic dishonesty, or why could it, and they have to make the compelling rhetorical arguments about it. So more about that to come, and we can maybe even address it at the end with some of our Q&A, but I know it's definitely a hot topic. So, and we're with you in the trenches, my friends. So now I'm going to hand it off again to Allison's going to just address a little bit more about kind of your role as a contractor versus an employee, just a few reminders about that, and then we'll hand it off to Christy Stoddard, our culture and events coordinator. And then it will be, our time together this evening will be wrapped up and finished up by Presbytera Maria, who'll give you lots of good tips about community and forming community and so forth. But I didn't want to neglect welcome Nancy Parcells, who doesn't have a verbal talk time this evening, but I just wanted to be sure to say, Nancy, we love you so much, and this whole Scholé world could not keep on rotating without you answering 101 parent phone calls and emails and enrolling and unenrolling and transferring and withdrawing. We love you, Nancy, and thank you for being with us this evening.
Thank you. No pressure at all.
Just wanted to say hey. All right, Miss Haley, back to you.
Yeah, we do love Nancy. She does a great job. All right, so I'm going to quickly speak on just a few reminders, just some housekeeping things. So obviously you've all signed an ICA, and we have brought you on board because we think you're wonderful, and we think that you are well qualified to teach the subject that you're going to be teaching. And so as such, just remember that if you're ever unsure what your responsibilities really are as a contractor, please look back at your ICA. That document is for you, and in your in the instructor portal under your profile, we have that document ready for you anytime you want to look at it. So if you aren't sure where you saved it, there is a copy there. There's several good sections that define the obligations that you have as a contractor, and those vary from being an employee. So we try to always be mindful of that responsibility. We have very few required meetings. This is like one of maybe 3 that we have for the whole year, and honor you as a contractor. So as such, just I wanted to point you back to the ICA. There is a section here that we've featured every year historically, that basically it says that you have agency to teach your class in the way that you feel is best, in keeping with the subject and then the broader picture of your department. And that your services would be rendered within your sole control, discretion, and professional judgment. So you're here because we trust that you can do that, and you can do that really, really well, and serve our families in a really beautiful capacity. So that is the ICA. Also, after the drop add period, we switch over to rolling enrollment, which means that students can still join us at any time, but it does require like instructor permission after the course is so far along. But anytime a student joins you, don't forget that you need to consider a placement evaluation, especially if they meet that flagging that has happened all summer. So sometimes it's easy to forget once the course has started that you may still need to do a placement eval. So just a gentle reminder not to forget, should that happen. Drop add period, we've talked a lot about that. It's coming up 2 weeks after courses start. Securing substitutes. So one of the things on your checklist is to read the handbooks, both the student parent handbook and the instructor handbook. The instructor handbook has a section that talks about what to do if you need to be absent. And there's an extra document that talks in more detail about, like, if you need an extended absence, if you know, you should get sick this year and need some extra time off or something like that. We have ways to take care of that. But the gentle reminder here is that when you do need a sub, that it's your responsibility to work within the school to find one. And I'm hopeful that one of the collaborative tools that we'll talk about in a minute can be a good resource for that. So you are responsible for finding your own sub. You do need to document any absence with us as a school so that we can help keep track of those. And you do have some options, whether you want to arrange a sub or provide an alternative instruction for the day. So if you need more assistance with that, just reach out. We're always glad to help you navigate that in the moment or ahead of time if you have questions. The last point here is gather promotional samples. So I put a squirrel, like a squirrel gathering nuts. I don't know if in your neck of the woods you have lots of squirrels, but we do here in Appalachia. And as your course plays out, you're going to have some opportunity to see some really excellent student samples, whether those are rhetorical presentations or artifacts that the students create, whether it's a celebration in your course, any of those sorts of things that you want to capture and kind of preserve for the moment can be useful for you to save as course promotion materials in the future. So again, use your discretion on that, but just a reminder that as great things happen, don't let them go unnoticed. You want to celebrate them within your class, and then they can be used by you for your course at large. Okay. All right, this is my last section for the evening. So ways to keep you in the know. If you don't know, the Monday morning memo comes out every Monday. So it's so important. We have 2 different publications that come out on Mondays. And I know if you've onboarded with me recently, we talk a lot about those, but one goes to families, but we also send it to our instructors. And that's the e-newsletter. If your parents aren't reading it, they're missing a ton of communication. Like hours go into every one of those. Shout out to Amanda Reeves for all of her diligent work. She's behind the scenes working on that project at the moment and does a great job for us. So the e-newsletter is very important for families. But for instructors internally, we use the Monday morning memo. That's posted in the instructor hub. Be sure you're reading that. The content does change, especially this time of year. It's going to change a lot over the next several weeks, and you don't want to miss out on important details. Occasionally we have mandatory meetings like today. Thanks for coming. Department meetings, they do vary based on what your lead teacher or department chair arranges, but those are something that's reasonable and in the scope of your contract. The principal memos and announcements, these are emails that we send out to different groups, whether it's a house of studies or a specific course or to all of our students or all of our instructors. And so those sorts of emails are very important. They're intentional. We try to not send anything extra or clog up the inbox. So be sure that you're reading those and encourage your families to do the same. If they are not receiving them, you can help them, make sure that they're whitelisting the school email address, or we can help troubleshoot that in some other ways. Okay, lastly, these are 2 new things. So the instructor training, if you're in Canvas, you should have been invited to a new course today. The new course is rather empty at the moment until things are published, but so are your courses. And so there's a lot of training. I say a lot maybe a lot's not the right word. There are small trickles of training, don't feel overwhelmed, that will be available to you on different topics like Zeitboard. In our summer trainings, our Zeitboard conversation got cut very short. And so you'll be able to do that on demand at your own convenience. And we have short clips that are coming out to explain lots of different ways to use Zeitboard, different tools with Zoom, other videos are part of that collection. So keep an eye on that. It will be a new resource that we use moving forward for training. Lastly, and also very importantly, if you've not stopped by the water cooler yet, you're going to want to do that. So in our surveys, which we take very seriously, we received a lot of feedback about the need to increase our level of collaboration. And so we are moving in that direction full speed ahead. And we've been working very diligently all summer on that. So one part of that is available to you at the moment. So give I don't know, some kind of an emoji if you've stopped by the water cooler already, if you know what I'm talking about. There's Kat. Yes, Kat's been there. I've seen Kat. Yep. Okay. Tisha, Cindy, Ash, Jamie. Awesome. Allison. Okay. Nathan. Okay, good. So the water cooler is found in Classical U. We have a Classical U group now. Not only will that help us talk about what we're learning in Classical U, it'll help us talk about all kinds of other good stuff. Like recently, Kat shared a photo of her and her husband on a big celebration trip that was really cool. And that's also very close to me, and it's very close to Nathan as well. Father Nathan, they were in West Virginia. Beautiful area. So yeah, this area is set aside for us to collaborate, to communicate with one another in step with the mission and vision of the school. So more will come out about that, about how to tag posts, how to have different threads, all that is forthcoming, but feel free to stop by and join the chat as you're able to. All right, and I think I'm passing it to Christy Stoddard.
Thank you, Allison. Hello, everybody. Give me one moment while I pull up my screen. Oh, Allison, I need screen sharing capabilities.
Try again. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Sorry about
Okay. No, no problem. Okay. So, oops. So can you guys all see my screen? Yeah, okay. So the community connection opportunities. So Allison was talking about the water cooler and some of the ways that we are going to get to interact with each other in a more meaningful way as faculty, as staff. But our community connection opportunities are ways that we can interface with the families, that we can help build the culture of the school more in an outward facing way, like on social media and stuff. And so some of the goals of community connection, to build deeper relationships with families, our community and students. And like I said, this helps build our culture. If you guys haven't been visiting our Facebook page over the summer and the end of last semester, we've really been working hard to put you guys out there on social media so that the families can get to know you. The families give us quite a privilege by inviting us into their living rooms to teach their children. And so we want to honor that by giving a little bit of ourselves as well. And so there are a lot of ways that we can do that. As instructors, you guys can send a request to No, I'm so used to saying, Nancy, your email address for everybody is like contact support. No, sorry. So I'm culture and events at, what is my email, Allison? Why can't I think of it at the moment?
SA events, isn't it?
SA events.
Classical subjects.
Thank you. It's been a long day, you guys. I'm sorry. So that is my email. But for any ways that you want to interact, and all of these ways I'm going to talk about here in just a second, you would communicate with me, with the culture and events coordinator, in order to do those things. And so you guys have been, I know a lot of you have seen or participated in, and thank you for doing these, the 5 questions with your classical educator. Those and the parent testimonials. If a parent sends you an email, speaks to you on the phone, get permission to see if you can use that, and we can make a slide to put onto social media, and it lets people know how families are viewing your interaction with their students. We have the What's on Your Bedside table. That's where you can just take a snapshot of yourself holding a book, send it to me with a quote, and we can put that on social media. And again, these are all ways that build relationships with our families, because they get to learn a little bit more about us. And as an added benefit, it makes the parents feel more comfortable with you, so that they can choose you as a teacher for their students. So we make ourselves more available to the public. Sorry, did that go black for you guys? Okay, good. And participation in events, and we're going to talk more about the events on the next slide, but participation in events can generate a natural interest of you as an instructor and in your courses. One of those, just briefly, is blogs, and that kind of falls under both categories. But if you want to write a blog, we will put that on our website, and then we'll advertise it in the newsletter as well. And that's a way that families can learn more about your heart and how you view things. So instructors who do take a more prominent and visible role at the academy through these and other opportunities I'll talk about in just a second, often do see a more dedicated following, and that builds your enrollment, that grows your classes. So here are some more community connection opportunities that we have. We do open house and community events, and so your participation in those puts your face on the screen, just kind of like right now, and people can see you, and you get to speak and talk and interact in a community setting. We also have student clubs. And I'm going to hold off on talking that because I have another slide just for that one. We have college night, where we have a panel of usually professors from the different colleges that will come and discuss and answer questions. And so participating in that as well. Now that's that's a webinar, so you won't have your face showing on that, but that is something that you can participate in and advertise to your families and talk about with parents, especially in the upper school, as parents are beginning to think about colleges. We have our lecture halls, same thing, webinars. The next one's the classroom experience. That is one that you can request with Dr. Blake if you want to host a classroom experience in which you're basically giving a sample class for parents to come and watch with their students, and they can see. You'll use your own students in this special classroom experience and just give an abbreviated classroom lecture or interaction so that parents can watch that. Coffees with the principals and teachers, and this is where Presbytera Maria and Dr. Blake, they will have a theme, and they'll be discussing it during the coffees, and this is one that we can participate in as well. And then again, the blogs. So the after school clubs, this is something that we do have a lot of interest in, and this is really helping, this helps build the community for our students. And so we have a lot of ways as instructors, it feels like, that we get to collaborate with one another and get to know each other through our instructor circles, our department meetings, and now the water cooler. So there's ways that we get to interact and have fellowship, but this is a way for our students to do that as well. This is something that builds their resume and yours as well as a sponsor for a club. So clubs are volunteer based, but they do give back dividends in the relationships that you build with the students and in the reputation that you gain with the parents. So clubs are a great way to know more families and also build your classroom base. The workload for the leader or facilitator can vary based on how you set it up. You do want to engage your student leadership so that they are taking on the bulk of the responsibility, but you're there as a facilitator and a host, making sure that everything stays appropriate. And you can also do shorter based clubs, like if you want to do a chess club that's just for the first quarter. And, you know, so you can work it around your own annual schedule, like if you've got busier seasons. And they could also just meet once a quarter, or they could meet more frequently. Some of the types of clubs that we have or have interest in, art, chess. We do currently have logic and debate clubs. Vixie, do we have a debate, or is it just logic?
It was just debate.
Oh, it was just debate. I'm sorry. Okay, it was I was backwards on that. Okay, thank you. Science clubs, math clubs, community service. How fun would that be to engage your students? What can we all do in our communities? Let's everybody go and volunteer at a retirement facility, and then we're going to come back and talk about it. Then music, poetry, that's a new one that Allison Johansson has recommended, which I'm excited, and I hope that comes about, Allison. So now you're on the spot and you have to do it. And then journalism. And so we do have our School Day Chronicle, which falls under that category. So if you're interested in hosting a club, reach out and let us know, and we will help you with the tools that you need to do that. Our next event that's coming up is the Back to School Night, August 31st, 7 p.m. And we're going to have a lot of breakout rooms and games, similar to kind of how we started it this evening. That's how long it's been. Not this meeting. This meeting hasn't seemed like it's been all day, Joylyn. I'm sorry. It's just been a long day. So Back to School Night, please put that on your calendars. It's a great way to meet the families and interact with your students in a fun, less formal way. And now I'm going to pass the baton, if I can stop sharing my screen, to Presbytera. Thank you.
Well, hello, good evening, everyone. It is always a joy to get together. I have to tell you, I always enjoy, I see your faces. I'm so excited. I see the energy, and thank you. Thank you for coming, and thank you for being with us. You know, we are a faculty of friends. And so we support our School Day community in many ways. One of the ways, in addition to everything else that we do with clubs and coffees and just the work we do personally on a personal level with our families and students, is also our tutoring center and the Center for Students with Learning Differences. Now, many of you wear many hats. So, you know, where Ash White said, hey, we kind of wear all these hats. Well, yeah, many of you wear many hats, and we thank you. Since January, we have placed 350 assignments with tutors. So many of you know, you often get, you know, emails from me, and, you know, that support we give to families, whether it's private instruction or tutoring, or Center for Students with Learning Differences with a special needs instructor, and we have, you know, special needs instructors here with us, is vital to what we're doing here at School A. So how do you become a School A tutor? Well, if you're interested in becoming a School A tutor, you can reach out to me, and we can sit down and have a discussion, what it looks like, what is entailed, and go from there. And that'll be our starting point. You can join us at any time for any discipline. And trust me, there is, as the tutors who are on Canvas know very well this past 2 weeks, there is much to be given and much work in the vineyard to do. So there's plenty of things that you all can participate and come and be a support to our School A families in this way. One thing that is really important for us to understand, and I wanted to highlight this because whether you're a tutor or not, this is very important. When we look at this graphic, the family, as you can see here with the student, they are the homeschool, right? So they're independent. Now, when they come to us at School A Tutoring Center or CSLD, they'll get a tutor or a SNI, a special needs instructor, and the tutor and special needs instructor communicate directly with the family. And then the family communicates directly with the tutor or SNI. Notice that the tutor and SNI don't ever, right, interact with the instructor or the instructor with the tutor or SNI for a particular assignment officially, right? So all information is confidential. So the hub is the family. So everyone talks to the family, and the family talks to everyone. we don't crosstalk. Of course, if you have questions or issues, if you're a tutor or S&I, you can come to me, or as a faculty of friends, if we have, some questions, you can always go and collaborate with your, your faculty of friends. But ultimately, it's the parents that drive the information and what information drives to each of them. So this is really important for us to understand. And when accommodations are made, the family is the one to ask the instructor, can you make this accommodation, right? And the instructor responds to the family. So again, you notice that the family is the hub and the other parties wait for the family to direct what they would like. So that relationship is really important. In addition to that, all of the questions that come from this, and it's like, well, where do we know these questions? And what if our past costs? Well, where you direct these parent questions is, of course, the student, parent, and instructor handbooks, faith and culture page. And then if ultimately you have tried, and we have talked about this numerous times in the past, the Matthew 18 principle. If there's an issue, go directly to the parent or go directly to your colleague and discuss it. If you haven't been able to find a resolution, and that includes when you're talking with a family who is part of the tutoring center or center for students with learning differences, then you come down to SA admin team. So this hierarchy is really important. In order for this hierarchy to work, though, as you all know, it has to be timely, consistent, and personal. Guys, I know we work online. My friends, pick up the phone. Difficult conversations should be had on the phone or Zoom. But something that you can see the person's face or hear the person's voice, because much can be misconstrued within an email. So please make sure that when you have these situations, whether it's a corporate class or whether you're working with a tutor or an SNI, that if you find issues or questions or you're just not sure of what's going on, please make sure it's timely, consistent, and personal, right? And personal. My mother would say, you catch more bees with honey, right? So that personal, I know that's a common phrase, but that personal is really important. All right, so as we said before, the instructor, you have assignments, course content, video requests, orientation info, class concern. That all filters to you, okay? Handbook, right, can answer questions like attendance policies, which you guys found today, academic dishonesty, auditing, transcripts, records, student communication, and conduct. If these two parts don't answer the question and you've worked with the Matthew 18 principle and you've tried to discuss with the parent, the colleague, etc., then that's when you come to the admin team. Admin also deals with the wait lists, enrollment change, anything not answered in the handbook, and anything that doesn't get settled after a parent discusses with you. And one thing I would like to say is we all have days that are challenging, and so do parents, and so do families. So sometimes the situation is much smaller than the emotion behind it. So that's really important to remember when it comes to our families, that you really gauge as much as possible with the Matthew 18 principle. I'll also tell you 24-hour rule. If you're really upset, do not write an email and shoot it off. My friends, 24 hours. 24 hours. And if you're still upset after 24 hours, give it another 24 hours and talk to someone that can help. Okay. So Either they're going to talk to you, you're going to consult the handbook, or if all else fails, admin team. Now, we are a faculty of friends. So that means we're learning from each other, right? We all are in various disciplines. We've all had various experiences, talents, charismas. And so because of that, we have the ability to work together. So anytime we have an issue or comment or question, of course, we have the handbook, right? But we also can ask it around the cooler, right? Around the cooler. I think I have the slide here. There it is. We can also ask about it around the cooler. So, you know, you're going to hear us talk about faculty of friends speak. And, you know, we're going to ask some of you, for example, the person that comes to mind, I don't know, Casey Newman, if you're here, Miss Casey Newman, who's an SRS instructor, actually, Diaconisa Casey, her husband just was ordained as a deacon. She is a whiz at social media promotion. So she may be one to do a video about, you know, faculty of friends speak on how do you promote your classes online. And I'm happy to say her classes, I think, are full at this point, if I remember correctly. So all of that to say, it's really important how we actually interact with families and look at these criteria. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes there's exception to the rules. So, you know, we have to be flexible or we're going to break. So having said that, you know, there's certain things that are gospel, right? Camera policy, you have to have the camera on. Zoom etiquette, do not come to class with your pajamas on, right? No go, right? Chat box is not to be used. Attendance, there's only certain things you can do. But then you get into areas like classroom dynamics, right? And breakout sessions, and how are you going to navigate those and try to coordinate and focus on what is true, what is good, what is beautiful with all of these tools. So homework policy, academic concerns, behavior concerns, all of these have a lot of gray area. And so again, if you come to this part and you have reached the admin team, we're here to help because we are a faculty of friends. You are not alone. And of course, that includes your department chairs for those of you that are part of a department with a chair. So all of that to say, this, you know, leads us to our growth and the support that we give to each other, the camaraderie that we give to each other. Now, you all know at fall and spring, we do observations and check-ins. Sessions will start in October and finish in December for the first semester. But remember, this is done for professional growth, to share ideas, to learn from each other, to give feedback. This is something that we do as classical educators. So this is a wonderful opportunity for us to grow in our ability to reach our students. So faculty of friends speak, we've talked about that. One new thing we're going to do, and Heather McCoy is here, is we're going to offer a special needs instructor weekly open office hour. So for those of you that may have a question like, you know, I have a student doing this, I don't know what that means. And you want to get some feedback of whether or not this might be a situation that you might suggest to the parent to reach out to the tutoring center or to the CSLD, or maybe it's something that you want to manage in your classroom. Heather McCoy is going to offer that. Thank you, Heather, very, very much for your generosity and your expertise in this area. She's going to offer 1 hour a week in which we can just drop by and say, hey, Heather, I have a question. It's kind of like Dr. Phil, right? So I have a question. Can you help me out? And so Heather's going to be there. Time to be determined. She'll set that up and you'll know. And this way, this is another layer of support and growth because these two things are new this year. So this is another layer. And really what we want to do is we want to have the Center for Learning Differences and the Tutoring Center, although the hub is the family, we want collaboration in that we are sharing information of best practices, right? So we are to collaborate, but when it comes to specific family, they will reach out both ways to discuss. So we ran through a lot of quick things, but anyone that has questions, comments, concerns, you want to come and talk with me, you know, about CSLD, tutoring center, etc., feel free to reach out. Dr. Blake, I went as quickly as possible.
You were a superstar. You were marvelous. And speaking of superstars, friends, you have shown endurance, patience, graciousness. Thank you for this evening. We do keep our meetings, our mandatory meetings, to a minimum, but that means there's a lot of content to share. So thank you. Thank you for your graciousness as we've gone over time, but we're very grateful for your attentiveness. And we just want to say again to all of you who have been long-standing Scully instructors, thank you. Thank you. We have so much confidence and gratitude for what you have done and the family's love and trust in you. And for those who are joining us just this year, you have joined an amazing group of people, and it's not just anybody. There's a lot of applicants to join this faculty of friends. So the fact that you are now on board with us and part of us is a testament to what we believe you have to pour into the lives of the children that are dear to our Father. And it's a great responsibility, and it's a great honor and a great gift to be able to have right in our own homes the opportunity to disciple, to leave a legacy, to impart to others what the Lord has imparted to us. And so we just pray over you and for you this year that you would be filled with the Spirit of God, and that His anointing would flow in and through you to those that you serve, and that all of us would be mutually blessed by one another, blessed in order to be a blessing. And again, thank you so much for joining us this evening. What my intention is just to pray in conclusion, and then I will hang on the call for anyone who wants to hang around to ask questions, so forth, toss some things around, but we'll have an official dismissal. So those of you who are, it's getting late night for you all, you can head to bed. So let's pray and thank God for His grace. Lord God, we are extremely grateful and humbled because you have given us so much. I thank you for what you have imparted into our lives. We thank you, God, for our families. We thank you for friendships. We thank you for sustaining us by meeting our basic needs and giving us so much more than we need. You are precious to us, and that we want to treat that precious treasure with reverence and regard, and then also share you liberally with others and what you've given us. So Lord God, I do lift up every instructor on this call, every parent, every fiance, every grandparent, every hat that we wear. Lord, may we wear it with your grace and with your goodness, and may we be in this world, Jesus, what you were to us, a minister. We love you, Lord, and we thank you for this time, and we give you this year in Jesus' name. Amen. Thank you again for joining us. We'll hang out here for a little bit for anybody who wants to hang on the call. Bye.